everybody. My name is Zak Nordyke, and I am a passionate learner when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, and investing. And today I'd like to share a personal experience or my personal experience. And this is not investment advice. It's just perspective that I've gained from investing in cryptocurrency. And I'd like to talk through some of the things that I've learned about dealing with the extreme volatility that's in the market, how I personally think about long-term investing in the space. And just, I want to give some general thought, again, not advice on investing, but just some general thought on technology changes that I've lived through in my life and how the adoption cycle is always bumpy. But when you see something trending, how to kind of ride the trend and kind of put the volatility in perspective. So I hope my personal story can give anybody that's interested in investing in the space the confidence to get started. Because one of the biggest problems I see is we have a lot of dreams and aspirations, but getting started is the hardest part. So if my story can even provide anyone the slightest bit of confidence based on some of the struggles I've had, because it's not been all good times, my hope is that you start to invest in the space, or at least start to learn more about it. And I believe if you give it a long enough time, there could be great prosperity. Again, that's all of our hope, but nothing is certain. So why would I have any kind of guidance or thoughts to give in this space? Well, let me take you back. In probably December of 2017, I was watching a TechCrunch video. I think it was Naval Ravikant and Vitalik Buterin. They were discussing Ethereum. I had heard of Ethereum probably, but I never really gave it any credence. I thought Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the other crypto currencies and digital assets, I just thought the space was nonsense. I thought it was hype. Why would I ever invest in that when companies like Amazon and Google were doing so well, and it seemed much more guaranteed than the volatility that came with kind of this, what I considered overhyped nonsense that was just going to break apart, and anybody that invested would be a fool. And again, my perspective has dramatically changed since then, and I did actually invest in Amazon and Google and did quite well. But that's not the point of this. What I learned during listening to that conversation with Vitalik Buterin, who created Ethereum, or was one of the founders of Ethereum, and Naval Ravikant, who does a really great job. He's a well-known angel investor, and he is incredibly thoughtful. I think he had an amazing conversation with Vitalik. I want to say Vitalik was maybe 21 years old, roughly, at the time. I couldn't believe someone that was as young as him knew so much about economics. I could only dream of knowing even a fraction of what he, at least has studied, and I'm much older than him. I couldn't believe also his technical competency and his ability to deeply describe what the possibilities with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology could be. I was very drawn not to having a full understanding of Ethereum. I don't know if I still have that full understanding today, but I was just very drawn to his seemingly clear understanding of what the entire crypto space could be and what Ethereum could provide in terms of a framework for developers. I'm certainly not a computer scientist, never would claim to be, but I see a common pattern amongst great entrepreneurs who seem to have these phenomenal visions for creating tools in advance of when they're needed. And I strongly believed, and I still do actually believe at the time, Vitalik had the knowledge and the skill set to deliver tools for a new digital economy that was just in its infancy, just taking shape. And my conviction around Ethereum, which was my first investment in January of 2018, at least in the crypto space, was this person seems to know so much about this space that is just kind of at its inception, and I still think it's kind of at its inception, that I'm going to invest in the person. And I know maybe some of you watching would be like, that's ludicrous to invest in these decentralized protocols when the whole point is decentralization, and central figures like a Vitalik or like a Charles Hoskinson with Cardano seem to be so central to the protocol success. I understand, but as a person who's been involved in many entrepreneurial projects, I do believe leaders can provide great guidance, whether it is in a more decentralized organization or centralized. And I know that that might sound to some degree hypocritical. So if you're aiming for decentralization, why would a central figure be important? I just think that a compelling leader is a compelling leader. And Bitcoin seems to have many compelling leaders, despite no one really having any say or influence over Bitcoin. They're still really big evangelists and really big knowledge leaders that advocate strongly for Bitcoin. But there was something compelling that I said, I am going to make a bet, and that's what I thought of it as, on Vitalik Buterin. I don't know much about Ethereum. And again, I will plead my ignorance. I still have a lot to learn about Ethereum. I feel like I know a lot more now because I think he sees something that others are missing. I think he's been able to captivate enough really intelligent developers that seem to understand this new space. And when I'm talking about this new space, I'm talking about decentralized protocols that will run some form of what I see of internet payments. And I'm not going to get heavy into that, but what I saw is an opportunity to get into a space with somebody that seemed to have a lot of expertise in it and ride their coattails. And I still am riding Vitalik's coattails. But I want to tell you a cautionary tale of when I got in. In January of 2018, the first ETH I bought was for $1,400. I bought one, thankfully, not a lot, at $1,400. Soon after that point, ETH, as well as Bitcoin, the price started to collapse significantly. My first ETH purchase really lost a tremendous amount of value, but I stayed confident because I still saw a lot of promise in the space. And I saw pioneers like a Vitalik Buterin that had the right level of understanding and the ability to generate the trust of developers and build a community of developers to build out the technology. And my confidence that something good would happen over a long amount of time, and my long amount of time is probably 2030, where I think you're going to see maturity in the space come on and real use cases kind of become mainstream. Are there real use cases now? 100%. There's so many different DeFi technologies. There's games based on this. There's NFTs. There's all this great stuff already happening, but I would not consider it very mainstream. It's still kind of one-off, so to speak. It's just not capturing the confidence of the general public yet. But I think there's something very special going on. And again, I invest in Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Cardano. Why those three? I'll make this very simple. I do think Bitcoin is very decentralized. I do like Bitcoin for the fact that there is not a central figure that has influence over it. I love that there's this finite amount that can't be expanded. I know Michael Saylor always uses the term an inelastic supply, meaning it's rigidly fixed at 21 million, and no one, no matter how influential they are, can make that change. I love the rigidity because I think it will be a tremendous store of value over time. I'm not convinced that it is right this millisecond, but I think as the years unfold, it will become more and more and more a trusted store of value. Do I trust it right now? I trust it enough to hold 4.33 BTC, and I would certainly grow my position and hopefully I'll be able to invest more money in it. So I'm confident in Bitcoin as a future store of value. And I think it will prove more solid as time goes on. And what I'm not worried about is what many people say as destroying the environment. I would never intentionally do something that I thought was contributing to hurting our environment. I think that that's foolish, but I think that often we have to understand a greater picture in what things could be as they move forward, not always what they are right now. I see a lot of initiatives specifically focused on using sources of energy for Bitcoin that otherwise would not be utilized. I'm seeing old coal-fired plants, old nuclear plants that have kind of gone offline, whatever that means, being reutilized for low-cost electricity production to mine Bitcoin. I'm seeing some really unique ways of taking what I would consider environmentally hazardous energy sites, where there seem to be coal waste materials. I've heard in the state of Pennsylvania, and there are these tremendous poison fires that have been burning for quite a substantial amount of time. It seems like there's an ability to cap the kind of rough energy that's being produced from these waste piles and put it back into play. And I'm not downplaying other things that might not be great for our environment. I get that there could be a negative impact in the short term, but I'm optimistic that when there is a great financial incentive to create low-cost energy to operate the Bitcoin proof of work protocol, that more environmental good will be done than environmental bad. So I'm very optimistic around Bitcoin for producing new thought process around production and usage of energy that's not being used. I'm very optimistic about the inelastic supply and its ability to be a store of value over time. And that optimism has, again, translated me to purchasing 4.33 BTC. My conviction around Ethereum is, I think Vitalik Buterin is a great driver of innovation. I think he's also been able to get to work with a community of developers. He seems to really understand how to motivate and provide tools and frameworks to very, very intelligent developers that want to work on these protocols and give them the right tools to do it. I don't think that he's specifically setting out to build particular tools, but he understands kind of the toolbox somebody would need to create decentralized finance and NFTs and smart contracts and all this great stuff. So I believe he is a great he has a great vision for the possibilities of what can be built on this Web 3.0 or in this decentralized space. I just think he has immense foresight. And again, it is not like Bitcoin with an inelastic supply. It is, I think there could be some questions around, just how much control there really is by the Ethereum community over ETH, and could it be manipulated? I mean, it seems like there's a possibility of that, but just on the flip side of it, I have a lot of conviction around the tools that they're building and just that general framework in being kind of one of the leading protocols for driving forward the innovations that we'll see in this kind of new financial system, this internet of money, however you want to think through it. I just think Ethereum it's playing a central role in it. It's the second largest cryptocurrency, but I think it only grows with time. It's going to facilitate breakthroughs in the way we interact with the internet that I think will be very life-changing. Cardano, for a similar reason, I just believe Charles Hoskinson, who was also one of the co-founders of Ethereum, has kind of a brilliant understanding of smart contracts. And I think, some of the drawbacks of both Bitcoin and Ethereum I feel like he's had enough time to observe what those may be and build really interesting solutions around verification and smart contract technologies. I think Cardano is in its very, very early stages in terms of being an ecosystem for developers, but similar to Vitalik, it just seems like he gets what tools developers will need to build long-lasting protocols that will be very useful for our global society. Additionally, I think Charles Hoskinson has what Jeff Bezos has and what I think Steve Jobs had, and just many other really great entrepreneurs. He has no care of what ADA's price is. He has no care of like the next year, or it's not that he has no care, but he's not in it to juice the price of ADA. He's not in it to think about how great can we be next year. He has a 5, 10-year, 15-year pathway that he's thinking of as just kind of a mental map for himself that I think always lends itself to phenomenal innovation. When you're not in a rush, when you have a community of developers and supporters that also support that not in a rush mindset, that understanding that really great stuff takes time is invaluable. And that's why I like Bitcoin. That's why I like Ethereum. That's why I like Cardano. That's how I can stomach the volatility of all these different digital assets, because Bitcoin's inelastic supply, its challenge around mining, I think will make it a valuable store of valuable store of value or a great store of value over time. I'm not naive. I don't think it's fully there yet, but it is the best hope of a digital store of value that will surpass gold or things that are supposed to be stores of value. I believe it will be the greatest store of value over time. That is an assumption that I'm making, and I have deep conviction in it just from the studies that I've done. I believe in Vitalik Buterin's, tremendous foresight into what the tools will need to be for decentralized applications and for Web 3.0 technologies that will bring value to transacting. I think that we're all going to make it sense. I don't know if we're all going to make it, but I think Charles Hoskinson will find it will help guide the Cardano community to finding another kind of space, another piece of the pie, so to speak, that will bring value. What all those things are fully fleshed out, only time will tell. But I really have strong conviction that Bitcoin has a space, significant space in the ecosystem as a store of value. I really have deep conviction that Ethereum will be kind of the leading layer one tool to provide value for developers and other creatives that will want to build these decentralized applications that will shape Web3, and there's a long way to go on that. And I think that Cardano will also play a role in it. I think we all have to be encouraged that Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano are all in the Grayscale Trust. Obviously, when an institution is buying these digital assets and basically making them available on the public stock exchange, it has to lend a lot to just retail investor confidence. And that's why I don't get so frightened by the volatility. I mentioned that I have 4.33 BTC. I've also been fortunate enough to accumulate 119 ETH, and I think I have 2,710 ADA, the Cardano digital asset. So that portfolio has a rough value of 770,000 today. That all started at less than $200,000 of me putting in back in 2018, and steadily through taking out loans and through just putting in money that I've worked for has grown. I put in over time under 200,000. 195, 196,000, and it's been able to grow well past 700,000, nearly 800,000 in terms of notional value. My deep conviction in it is for the reasons I've stated. I think if you're going to invest, you have to find your deep conviction rationale, and you have to really adopt not timing the market, but a time in the market philosophy. And I think most investors would provide guidance, or most people that would have success would provide guidance that time in the market is of value with like an S&P 500 index, ETF, or mutual fund. You should never apply that time in the market thought process to cryptocurrencies. They have much more volatility. I would tend to agree with them unless you are playing, in my opinion, with the leading technologies, the leading protocols in the space. I do believe you have to take a time in the market approach, not timing the market. If you could do a time in the market and time in the market approach with Bitcoin, that would be phenomenal. But it's often very hard to time the market. Yes, you can see dramatic drawdowns, 80% corrections, etc. And it's a phenomenal time to get in if you can. But my overarching thought is that with every passing year, its application as a store of value in a ever-growing digital world is going to become more omnipresent and dramatically clearer. It only stands to reason that that will be the leading piece, that will be the leading digital asset for storing value. We'll have other applications, probably. I'm not going to project on that, but I think for its one play that is of immense value to us all, taking today's money that we're earning and putting it in a vehicle to retain that spending power years into the future, it is a bet. And I'm going to use that word. It's a bet that I'm willing to make, and I'm willing to put my own hard-earned money into it. Ethereum is, in my opinion, the best toolkit for developing out these decentralized applications that are going to bring value to the Web3 experience. Again, my thought process is, and Cardano's very inexpensive today at, I think, $1.20 some odd cents. I feel like, again, Charles Hoskinson in the Cardano community will find something of value to also contribute into the ever-growing amount of tools developers will need, or need infrastructure to develop for the Web 3.0 experience. If you can understand, and again, understanding only grows with time, things change with time. But if you take the information available today and you find yourself deeply convicted, I think you'll be able to much better tolerate the ups and downs in the market that are quite dramatic. And if you have enough patience and conviction, and if you're able to hold these items, I have never sold one of my Bitcoin. I have never sold one of my ETH. I have never sold one ADA. I don't plan on doing it. Maybe when 2030 hits, I will have a different mindset about it, but that is why I'm deeply convicted. And in my next video, I am looking to talk with everybody about stable coins and how getting yield from stable coins can be very transformative to helping you balance a long-term strategy while producing income for yourself in the short term. So look forward to that. But today was a video about why my conviction outweighs short-term volatility, and how taking that mindset and approach can help you as a retail investor have the grit in the stomach and the fortitude to survive volatility. And I think if we revisit this video in 9 years, if you've taken a similar approach, and again, not advice, but if you decide under your own choosing to take a similar approach, I think you might find yourself quite prosperous. So with that said, everybody, I am Zak Nordyke. It's been a pleasure to chat with you for just a bit. If you find what I had to share of any value and you'd like to see more of it, I'm going to have videos in the coming weeks. But you can also find me on Strike. a great new app similar to, basically it's going to allow us to pivot things over the Lightning Network, similar to a Venmo or a Cash App. But you can find me at strike.me/Z Nordyke, strike.me/Z Nordyke. I would be glad if you felt like a contribution was something you'd like to do. Until next time, take it easy.